Keep going. You want to be almost at the end of that row. He's in 328. Here he is, Orman called. They skidded to a halt outside the cell. Sam went utterly cold. The doctor was sitting on the bed in the cell, his knees drawn up to his chin, staring at the wall. "Doctor!" shouted Sam, pressed up against the bars. He didn't look up. "Kinjadani," swore Matatan. She was looking at the crayoned images that covered the cell walls, layers of dark color, built up into mad swirls. Nothing recognizable. "Get the door," snapped Orman. Matatan opened the lock. Sam pushed past her. She stopped short of the doctor, afraid to touch him. He kept staring at the opposite wall, as though she just wasn't there. "He's drugged," said Orman. "I don't think so." Sam crouched down beside the doctor. His eyes weren't focused. His face was locked in a slight frown. "Sam," said Orman. She cut him off with a wave of her hand. "Doctor," she said softly. "It's Sam." "Come on," said Orman. "We can't—" "Shut up," said Sam. She shook the doctor's arm gently, then violently. "Come on, doctor. There's no time." The doctor drew a sharp breath, his eyes focusing on her for the first time. In the next instant, he had leapt from the bed and grabbed her in a tremendous hug, almost knocking her over. She spluttered. "Sam," he declaimed, "I could kiss you."
"He's awake,"
shouted Doctor. Akalu started violently. He had been watching the efforts against the fire from his office, the courtyard lit in reds and oranges. The morale facilitator turned sharply, staring at the terminal. "You haven't said a word for weeks," he said.
"They're getting him out, taking him away. You must stop them."
She found him in the butterfly room. Opening that door again for the first time in years was like easing back into an old habit. She saw the impossible hillside inside, the inexplicable sky, the iridescent blizzard of butterflies swarming across the meadow. Every kind of butterfly that you could imagine, and quite a few you couldn't. He was in his old place at the top of the hillside. This time he was sitting slumped in a wicker chair. The prison uniform was gone. He was wearing a white linen jellaba, tied around the waist with a green sash. It hit her that the clothes he used to wear, the old familiar velvet and linen and silk, were gone forever. She reached the top of the hillside and stood near the chair. His arms and shoulders were covered in butterflies. His eyes met hers. The left one was bloodshot, surrounded by purple bruising. "I brought you something," she said, and held out the bear. He lifted his arm for her to tuck the bear under, and held it close, quietly curling up around it. His eyes were focused on the middle distance, on nothing. "Look," she said, "there are lots of things I've got to—" "I didn't think I'd ever get out," he said. "I don't know if you can understand. I didn't think I'd ever get out." Sam felt the hairs stand up on the back of her neck at the flatness of his voice. He was crushing the bear to him, his whole body rigid and unmoving. There weren't any walls to break down, nothing I could even push against. I couldn't get away because the thing keeping me there was in here. He still wasn't moving. With each word, he was hardening, like he was turning into a block of marble. She crouched down beside his chair, trying to get his eye level. Forget what she had to say. She had to reach him in there. So, oh God. How long were you in there? It was... She could see the thought knotting behind his forehead as he struggled to work it out. 3 and a bit years. He took a slow breath. She smiled. Blink of an eye to you. No. But 3 years of nothing, he whispered. Well, said Sam simply, there weren't nothing for me. You humans change so quickly, he said thinly. It was about 3 years after she left that I saw Ace again. It was as though she was a completely different person. It was so long before I knew she was still in there. Are you still in there? He didn't answer. She had been wrong. He wasn't sitting still. There were tiny quivers running through his body, like huge bursts of movement being held just under the surface. If he was a block of marble, then it was one about to shatter from its own internal stresses.